The thumbnails keep sliding like lanterns in an endless night, each one promising hope, kindness, redemption. Bright titles bloom across the screen. A stranger saved her life, a soldier's last act of mercy, a millionaire who cared. The faces are radiant, children mid-smile, strangers kneeling to help, mothers clutching infants. But as you sit there, alone in the late-night glow, something in your chest tightens. There is an aftertaste to these images, a shadow behind the light, as if each frame carries something you were never meant to see. Watching them feels like walking through a hospital after midnight, the air sharp with antiseptic, the floors polished until they shine, while somewhere beneath the tiles something is rotting, hidden away so carefully that only the smell remains to betray it. You pause on one video without meaning to. A small girl stands frozen in a grocery aisle, her toy clutched so tight the plastic has bent. Behind her, blurred by motion, stands an old man in a gray coat. At first you think nothing of it, until you scroll further. Another city. Another miracle. Another thumbnail showing another child on the brink of despair, and there he is again. The same coat. The same shadow of a face turned just away from the camera, like someone who knows exactly where the lens is but will never look into it. You feel your breath catch as you start to recognize him, not as a person but as a pattern. Others notice too. You remember old threads on Reddit, late-night speculations and screenshot collages, users tracing this figure across half a dozen videos. But those threads are gone now, deleted without explanation. Some accounts simply blinked out of existence, leaving no trace but dead links and empty archives. Then there's the post you can't stop thinking about, buried deep in the archives from 2019. A stranger wrote that a particular viral rescue video mirrored a disappearance in their hometown. The child's face was the same. The location matched. But in real life the case was sealed, no explanation ever given, no confirmation of survival. The writer begged for someone else to see what they saw. A week later that post vanished too, scrubbed as if it had never been written. Your fingers hover over the trackpad as you scroll deeper. Metadata whispers secrets in plain text, timestamps from multiple heartwarming uploads that match, almost to the minute, actual 911 calls placed in entirely different states. It's as if someone was waiting with a camera already rolling, like the footage existed before the events it claimed to capture. You wonder who could move that fast, who could weave themselves into tragedies so quickly and leave with perfectly edited proof of human decency. You scroll through the comment sections. At first they're predictable, prayers, crying emojis, words like faith restored. But deeper down you find something stranger. People confessing that these moments feel eerily familiar. I swear I've seen this exact scene, one says, but in another video years ago. Another writes, this dialogue, it's the same as one from a clip that went viral in 2017. The words feel nervous, typed in haste, as if the writers themselves doubt their memories. Hours later, when you return, those comments are gone. Psychological analysts in obscure forums have a name for this. Forced empathy loops. Stories designed to trigger your deepest instincts. Protect the child, mourn the loss, thank the stranger, over and over until you're conditioned to watch, to share, to obey. They warn that repetition dulls suspicion, that the more often you see the same pattern, the less you question why it exists. But late at night, as you sit in that cold light and watch thumbnail after thumbnail, you can feel the unease crawling through you. The smile on one screen flickers. For a second you think it's just your connection, just compression artifacts. But then you see it again. The same smile across two different faces, two different stories, the same uncanny curl of the lips. The screen feels alive now, like it's leaning closer, like those bright eyes are watching you as much as you are watching them. And in that instant, you understand something you can never unlearn. These aren't just stories. They are signals, woven into the fabric of tragedy, and somewhere beyond the glow of your room, someone is collecting them and watching you watch them. Ask ChatGPT, the frame freezes, and your room goes silent except for the low hum of the monitor. It's 3:17 a.m. and your eyes ache from hours of scrolling, but something on the screen refuses to let you move on. The hallway in the video is dim and narrow, walls the color of old bone, shadows pooling in corners. And then you see it, A doorknob that glints too bright, polished like it doesn't belong to a place abandoned. Just above it, stuck with peeling tape, is a child's drawing. A sun with crooked rays, a house with windows like empty eyes. And in the corner, almost lost in the faded crayon strokes, are numbers. At first they mean nothing, just scratches of a restless hand. But then your breath catches. You've seen that sequence before, late one night in a forum so deep in the archives it felt like stepping into a graveyard of secrets. Your fingers tremble as you open new tabs, cross-checking those numbers against anything you can reach. What surfaces is not a map so much as a wound, decommissioned shelters listed in municipal records, warehouses long since closed but still drawing police calls, facilities marked restricted, with no explanation given. You trace one coordinate to a vacant building outside St. Louis, another to an address in rural Texas where 6 people vanished in the same month. The screen fills with pins and lines, and suddenly it feels like the world is unraveling into patterns you were never meant to see. The memory of an old Y-Files episode drifts into your mind, the host's voice dropping when he spoke about FEMA documents pulled from declassified folders. He mentioned strange notes in the margins, sets of coordinates with no legend to explain them. Emergency housing blueprints for towns that didn't exist. Rooms that were never built or built and then erased. You remember the shiver that slid down your spine when he said, "Sometimes the plan is older than the disaster." That shiver returns now, sharper, colder, as you stare at the numbers on the child's drawing. You dive back into the depths, combing through half-dead Reddit threads. On /r/unresolved mysteries you find fractured conversations, screenshots of old video descriptions that once held a GPS link. Users claimed the link led to a field behind a collapsed church, the site of a disappearance that was never solved. By the time others checked, the link was gone, the description scrubbed clean, and archived pages on the Wayback Machine returned nothing but error codes. It's like someone is moving ahead of you, sweeping away their footprints while you chase shadows. Then a memory of a whistleblower thread on X surfaces. It was live for only a few hours, but its words burned themselves into those who saw it. Some of these stories are not stories. Some are signals. Kindness is the cover. The coordinates are not random. You scroll through your saved images looking for proof, but the screenshots are gone, deleted in some forgotten sync, or maybe never there at all. The words still echo, signals, cover, not random. The realization hits you slowly, a cold tide rising in your chest. Maybe these touching videos are not just there to heal or inspire. Maybe they are beacons, markers embedded in frames, waiting for the right eyes to decode them. And then a sharper thought, one that makes your throat tighten with guilt. Every time someone shared those videos, every time viewers like you followed their curiosity, they might have been helping. Helping who? Helping what? Your cursor hovers over the play button. The doorknob still gleams on the screen. The drawing still stares back with its crooked sun, its empty house, its coordinates whispering from the corner like a curse. You know if you press play again, you'll fall deeper, but you can't look away. Because now you understand you're not just watching someone's memory. You're staring straight into a set of coordinates that lead to something real, something buried in the cracks of the world, and you can feel the weight of every missing name pressing down on your chest as you lean closer, caught between terror and the need to know. The footage rolls in slow motion, and there he is again, always at the periphery, always blurred just enough that you can't be certain. A man wrapped in a gray coat that hangs heavy like a winter shadow, head lowered, shoulders drawn tight as if he's bracing against a storm no one else can feel. He never steps forward, never speaks, but the longer you watch, the more impossible it becomes to ignore him. His silhouette lingers even after the clip ends, burned into your eyes like the afterimage of a light you stared at too long. You rewind, pause, advance frame by frame, and there he stands, in a crowd that isn't looking at him, at a street corner that isn't supposed to matter. The footage cuts to chaos. A car overturned, sirens still distant, and in the corner, there he is again. Another video, another night, a flood dragging debris through a darkened town, and there he is, still and silent, watching before the first responders arrive. You realize you've seen him in at least 7 of these stories, different states, different victims, but the same coat, the same posture, the same unsettling stillness, as if he exists just outside of what's being filmed. Late-night researchers noticed too. Threads once bloomed on forums, long posts mapping his appearances, timestamps compared, screenshots circled in red. But when you search for them now, you find only dead links and faint traces. On archive.org you discover something stranger. The channel itself once bore a different name, a title no one speaks of now. The logs show the change happened the very same day police released a sketch of a John Doe discovered near an accident site, a man in a gray coat with eyes that could not be described. You stare at the sketch for a long time. Even in the crude lines you see the same downward tilt of his head, the same haunted shape. Somewhere deeper, you stumble onto fragments from /r/conspiracy, posts now scrubbed clean, but preserved in half-broken screenshots. He's not just a witness, one user wrote. His name is Daniel H. Find him before they erase him. But that name yields nothing now. Search engines return blank results, records dead-end into error pages. Daniel H. might never have existed, or maybe he existed too much, in ways someone wanted to bury. Then comes the declassified report you find buried in a FOIA dump. Its language is clinical, detached, but the words cut through you. Field Liaison Program, deployment of embedded observers within community impact narratives to assess response patterns. You read it again, slower this time. Embedded observers. Community impact narratives. Someone is placing people in these stories, not to save lives but to watch how the world reacts. Your skin prickles. The idea crawls through your thoughts, whispering that every time you pressed play, every time you let yourself cry over a stranger's suffering, he might have been there, somewhere at the edge of the frame, recording more than just the tragedy. You minimize the window, and in the reflection of your darkened screen you see your own face, pale and still. But behind it, or maybe within it, you catch a hint of a shadow. A shape that doesn't belong. For a moment you can almost see the gray coat, the lowered head, standing in the corner of your room, just far enough that you can doubt it. You blink, and the shadow is gone. But the feeling remains, tightening like a knot in your chest. The certainty that while you've been trying to track him, he's been there all along, watching you watch him, waiting for the moment you realize he is closer than you think. Ask ChatGPT. The room is dark enough that the glow of the monitor feels alive, a cold halo breathing against your face. You let the episode run again, sound turned low, eyes unfocused, until something moves beneath the words. A faint rhythm, almost mechanical, slipping between the narrator's lines. Then, a voice, small, broken, cutting through like a signal bleeding from another frequency. You freeze, turn the volume up, lean closer. It's there, just below the music, voices pleading, stifled cries layered under the polished script. You slow the playback until every second stretches like taffy, and the whispers emerge, distinct now, impossible to mistake. Help me, please help me. Hours blur together as you open spectrogram software, feeding the audio through filters, watching shapes bloom across the screen. Within the noise, lines of dots and dashes flare briefly, vanish, then return, Morse-like bursts that don't belong in a story about kindness. You translate them, letter by letter, but the fragments never finish, as if the message was cut in mid-transmission. It feels like someone trying to speak through a wall. Your searches spiral outward. Buried in Reddit threads are lists, upload timestamps lined up against public records. A sick pattern emerges. A video posted at 3:11 a.m. on the same night an Amber Alert sounded in Nebraska. Another dropped seconds after a child vanished in Florida. The threads are littered with deleted comments and half-finished theories, users warning each other before their accounts go silent. You remember the FOIA dumped files you downloaded months ago, government PDFs filled with dry language until a single line stopped you cold. Anomalous civilian content, flagged for review, pending removal. There's no detail, no names, but the implication is clear. These videos have been seen before, noticed before, but never fully erased. Someone is letting them stay. Scrolling back to the episode, you think of those fleeting, panicked comments you saw the night it aired. Viewers typing out coordinates, street names, warnings. "That's my neighborhood," one wrote. "There's no film crew here." Another said, I can hear her voice. I know that voice. Hours later those comments were gone, their accounts shadow banned into silence. The air in your apartment feels heavier now, pressing against your chest. You look at the still frame on the screen, a stranger's hand reaching out in compassion, and you hear that hidden frequency again, faint but insistent, like a coded pulse meant for someone else entirely. A cold thought crawls through you. Maybe you were never the intended audience. Maybe these broadcasts are not stories at all, but signals slipped into the bloodstream of the internet, waiting for the right eyes, the right ears. And now, in the hush between words, you can feel those eyes turning toward you. Ask ChatGPT. The final scene unspools like a fever dream, and you sit motionless in the glow of a screen that feels far too alive. It is well past midnight. Outside, the city is silent, but here, inside this endless archive, bright thumbnails slide by like offerings on an altar. Smiling children. Shimmering tears on unfamiliar faces. Soldiers bending in slow motion to lift someone from ruin. The colors are soft, almost holy, but something in you tightens with every passing frame. Because you know now that some of those people never came home. You can almost feel them behind the images, pressing against the glass, their silence heavy, their absence electric. You think of the reports you found buried in corners of the web, the kind of files you only stumble on when you've gone too far. Investigators traced patterns that should not exist, uploads routed through layers of rerouted servers, the digital fingerprints looping back not just to private accounts but to government proxies. A clean smile in a thumbnail hiding a signal stamped with an address no one wants to explain. The memory of those recovered comments won't let you go. You used a third-party tool, clawing data back from a void that wanted to swallow it whole. A woman wrote, "I know her. That's my sister. We held her funeral 2 years ago." Another, late at night, "That man? He went missing when I was in high school. How is he in this video?" The comments were gone by morning, replaced with blank space and shadow banned profiles, but the words remain, etched into the part of your mind that no algorithm can reach. And then the whispers from inside the machine itself. Former employees, talking in coded language over encrypted calls, admitting they worked on something no one should. They spoke of ghost channels, shell accounts that recycle genuine footage from tragedies, splicing them into new narratives designed to test emotional response. They admitted to editing sobs for clarity, to adding narration that never happened, to blurring certain faces until even the victim's family wouldn't recognize them. "It's all for research," one message read. "It's all to see how far people will go." In private forums you found survivors, voices hesitant, unsure, carrying a weight that trembled between the lines. One wrote, "I didn't know they were filming. I woke up in the hospital and saw myself online." Another whispered, "They asked me to do it again. To walk back into the room and say the same words because the audio wasn't clean enough." You read these confessions long into the night, each one stitching a new shadow into your thoughts. The archive keeps scrolling. The thumbnails glide by in rows that never end, each one a door into someone's suffering dressed up as a lesson in hope. The weight of grief settles over you like fog creeping across a dead field. You think about every time you clicked share, every time you typed a comment filled with sympathy. You think about how many eyes, just like yours, have been watching without ever realizing they were being watched in return. The screen flickers. For a moment you catch your own reflection in the black glass between videos, your face pale, eyes wide, a stranger in the glow. And behind you, in the faint blur, you imagine other faces, unseen observers leaning closer. A presence in the archive itself, breathing through every pixel, recording the way you linger. Now you know these aren't just stories. They are fractures in the world, carefully packaged and fed back to you until you forget to question them. But you can't forget now. You can't unknow what's buried under the thumbnails, what hums behind the servers, what waits in the dark when the videos end. The archive watches back. And as you sit there, unable to look away, you feel it watching you.